Remember, this show is PG-13, so you might hear a naughty word or two. Norbert's is having a sale on mounting blocks. They are so handy because you can use them to jump on all the things, mounting blocks. Go to norberts.com for a 10% discount on anything with the code GymCastic, and it's trade show deal season. That's right. You can pre-order the booth display items for the best deal. They're going to be at GAT Region 1 and 5, plus they're going to be at Congress. We're also going to be at Congress in New Orleans this year. I'm very excited for all the music. Norbert's is also giving away a $50 Norbert's gift card that can be used on anything in their online store. No minimum. Just follow Norbert's Athletic on Instagram and comment on the giveaway post. So much has happened this week. Lily is leaving USA Gymnastics at the end of the year. The first Fierce 5 baby has been born. Simone reminded everyone what Pride is really about. Colleges can now directly pay their athletes, and it involves a lot. So we have tons to discuss. Today is June 9th, 2025, and welcome to the #1 gymnastics podcast in the galaxy. I'm Jessica, and I'm here with Spencer from the Balance Beam Situation. And let's start with a happy headline, something really cool, gymnastics actually flipping related.
Whoa.
I know. And that is that Mahdi Olfati from Iran successfully competed his Yurchenko full in at the Asian Championships.
Mm-hmm.
Good job. That's so cool.
That
I
was
love
a
innovation.
really good vault final, by the way. We had
Yes.
Mahdi Olfati. We had Huang Minqi of China. You had Carlos Yulo there, which usually is all you need for a great vault final is Carlos Yulo. But we had a bonus. That was a good one.
Let's talk about what happened with Simone on the Twitters. Simone really just wanted to leave no doubt for Pride Month. She was like, listen, I have thoughts. So she tweeted at Riley Gaines, and here is what she said.
You're truly sick, all of this campaigning because you lost a race. Straight up sore loser. You should be uplifting the trans community and perhaps finding a way to make sports inclusive or creating a new avenue where trans people feel safe in sports.
She continues, maybe a transgender category in all sports, exclamation, exclamation, but instead, ... you bully them, ... One thing's for sure is no one in sports is safe with you around. 5 exclamation points. I want to explain first who Riley Gaines is. If you've been blessed to never hear this name, she is a swimmer who raced against a trans woman in the NCAAs and has been used by the far right and Trump to put out the message that conflates trans women with sexual abuse, basically, and that they are in women's spaces is the same as sexual abuse. They're conflating those two things. That's what I take away from her message. Trigger warning if you want to skip forward a little bit because we're going to talk about SA. I reached out to USA Gymnastics, who called Riley's response to Simone abhorrent. Can you explain why they would think that Riley Gaines' response to Simone was abhorrent, Spencer?
Well, we've gotten into a whole, of course, it's an internet thing, so it gets very much into the weeds and attacks and all of that, which I kind of want to, get away from. But another crux of the issue was that Riley Gaines posted a response that included references to and an image of the criminal ex-doctor next to Simone, with Simone, making, sort of bringing that into it. And that's what USAG is referring to when they called Riley Gaines' response abhorrent.
Yeah, I think conflating losing a race with being essayed by a doctor, conflating the trans community with, rapists. And Simone's message was to uplift and find a way to include, very specifically. She didn't say that an NFL linebacker should, compete in little girls rugby. She said, find a way to uplift, include, make trans folks feel safe in sports. Safe in sports. That's the important thing. I think what bothers me so much is this goes back to what happened in the 1930s and what happened in the 1950s when there was this conflation of queer equals sexual predator. And that's so dangerous and so wrong. And I think it is a distraction from what's really going on, which is the greater removal of rights and democracy in the US. And that's something that's really important to focus on.
One other thing I think is, when we talk about the people using images of the criminal ex doctor next to Simone, they think it's some big gotcha at Simone, but really I feel like they're proving Simone's point because she knows what danger to women in sports actually is. She's lived it firsthand, and she knows that a trans girl playing softball isn't it. And so every time they make that point, they're showing that, like, the person who actually knows is saying this isn't the danger you're trying to act like it is.
This is why I always say, like, this is a distraction from what's really going on, because this is really a very, very non-problem. It's such a small, 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 tiny percentage of people in sports. And it's not the real, if you really support women, this is the argument is like, we support women, so we have to make sure trans people aren't allowed to do any sports. The real protection of women is equal healthcare rights, autonomy over your own body, equal rights in the workplace, time off for the things that women need time off for their bodies to heal, like paid maternity leave, which we don't have as a federal law in the United States. You're not guaranteed that. Investing in research in women's health. Those are the things that prove you actually care about women. This is not it. It's a distraction. That's what I keep telling. I just want people to remember that is investing in women and protecting women. So, I also think it's really important that you mentioned, like, kind of, what happens on an internet fight when it's all just an extreme and there's no gray area and all of that. And the Reddit response versus the Twitter response,
Oh god. I mean,
so
reading
different.
internet responses is always, an act of making yourself dumber, I feel like.
It's so true. This is why I don't go on and I don't look at things anymore, because it's just, like, ridiculous. And if I really want to find out what people are thinking, I might look at Reddit because there is more nuance and discussion, than it being all black and white. But yeah, there's that. Also, I wanted to give a shout out to Maryland, the Maryland gymnastics team, who posted photos in their pride leotards because they remember that pride is a protest, started as a protest. I saw this great quote that Charlotte Drury put up this week, she was part of the original three. What are we going to call them? The queens. But there was Kyla Ross and Michaela Maroney and Charlotte Drury all worked
Mhm.
out together. They started gymnastics together and they all became elites and Olympians and some Olympic champions. And Charlotte went on to do trampoline and was an alternate last 20 in Tokyo. So she put up this quote about how it's fine for all of these companies were fine to celebrate pride when it was just like rainbows and fun and it's a party and it's fine. But when pride becomes an act of resistance, they have stopped. You remember it's a protest, it's about demonstrating for people's rights and equal rights, then they don't want to participate anymore. But Maryland is like, nope, here's our leotard. We're putting it up for Pride Month. So shout out to you guys. Breaking, we have a quote, we have a statement from USA Gymnastics, and this specifically has to do with their transgender policy. So, Spencer, can you read this statement from USA Gymnastics?
Sure. USA Gymnastics seeks to uphold inclusive sport practices while adhering to various local, state, and federal laws, as well as international regulations established by the IOC and FIG. In May, USAG removed its policy to assess compliance with the current legal landscape.
We reached out specifically to ask USAG about this because this is an issue of prominent discussion that's happening right now. And we noticed that their transgender policy was gone while USAG used to be an organization that really stood at the forefront, leading the way for inclusion. What do you think about this statement? Do you have thoughts on it?
I mean, it's a kind of a typical, what an organization has to release as a statement. It's very careful not to say anything too much. Um, But yeah, I think it's worth asking about why the trans policy was removed, because why? And there are non-anti-trans reasons, I guess, that you might remove it if you are worried about getting people in trouble with, like, members of USA Gymnastics in trouble, depending on what state they live in. Like, if you're
Yeah.
worried about, like, oh, if you adhere to our transgender policy, we are opening you up to legal trouble in this state or that state. I can understand it from that perspective, but also removing the policy then is tacitly not supporting trans athletes, because you're removing a policy that was, you know, as you mentioned, kind of progressive
Yeah. Yeah, and I can
relatively.
like I appreciate that they're saying like we want to uphold quote uphold inclusive sports practices while adhering to laws. And I think that's the crux of it. And I can see that if I'm their general counsel, I'm going to say you're going to make somebody that lives like you're going to what if someone says they have to follow your USAG policy and then you're getting the meet director arrested in, whatever
Mhm.
state where this is illegal, and that's going to make the news then that the police stomp in and arrest the organizer of the meet, and that then makes the athletes a target and makes people a target. So I appreciate that they're wanting to not have that happen, but also, and I appreciate they're saying they still want to make it inclusive. um it's I understand that it's like I would like to see maybe the policy could be where it is legal to do so.
Mhm.
This is what we stand for. Something like that. Spencer, I
Mhm.
know as we just talked about, you're all over the social medias.
Yeah, I love it. I love it so much.
You do. So you
But
know
I
that
think I'm giving myself a little credit for at least knowing what was going on with Simone. I'm not
oh yes,
completely under a rock, just like
I'm proud of you.
it's like 80% under a rock.
And that's courageous to be on the Twitters. Which obviously
Which is like part of going back to Simone. It's like, good for Simone. Because she could so easily have taken a pass, and she was like, no, 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 no.
yeah. Um the first Fierce 5 baby has been born. And it is Jordan Weaver and Chris Brooks welcomed their baby Gigi. Gigi, she's so tiny and adorable. Gigi Brooks, and you guys, she is already holding her freaking head up, you guys, and not just like for a second. I mean, like fully holding it up and looking around while laying on her stomach. She's like days old. A day old? That's nuts. That's not how babies operate. I don't know if you're familiar with babies, but they don't come out holding their heads up. So obviously she's already a freak athlete. And I say that in the absolute positive, most positive way that I possibly
Mhm.
can. Uh yeah. So
So don't
congratulations.
worry, Jessica's already planning the entire life and future of this baby.
Have they hung her from a clothesline yet? That's all we want to know. Um do we have to retire that because it turned out that Mochiano's parents were like her dad was like terrible and tried to have her coach killed? Should probably but it's so funny. It's such a great story.
I feel like you can do what you want.
All right, thank you. I
All
appreciate
right.
that. All right, let's talk about the most important thing that happened this week, and that is the House settlement is final. Not the House is in Congress, the House is in the lawsuit uh, against the NCAA for back pay. But before we talk about this, because it's going to be a long conversation, I want to give you guys some updates. So, number one, Friday, July 18th, after work, after dinner, come to the world famous IO Theater, home of every SNL comic actor, Saturday Night Live people, all that in Chicago. That is where our live show is going to be on in Chicago, IO Theater, Friday, July 18th, with a very, very special guest. Tickets will be on sale soon. So tell all your friends, prepare yourselves to be there. It's going to be really, really fun. Very excited to go to Chicago. Um, Please also subscribe to us on YouTube because only like 50% of you subscribe. And we have a lot of YouTube watchers now. And wherever you listen to podcasts, obviously mark it to automatically download because you don't want to be stuck on a plane because planes are turning off their Wi Fi now because of interference. It's the aliens. I told you about that. But the worst thing is, you know how the news came out that it's been the US government all along planting these alien stories to distract from new technology? Oh, ruining my dreams. But anyway, mark it to automatically download so you don't get stuck without podcasts to listen to. And remember that The Balance, my year's coaching Simone Biles, is out now. And joining us now is fact checker Steve Cooper, who co-wrote this book with Simone's coach Amy Borman, and he is going to read a pride-related excerpt from the book.
I entered this world when my mom was 22 and my dad, Denny, was 25. I was born in Chicago, and soon we were living in a hippie commune in New Mexico. As an infant, I slept in a teepee surrounded by easygoing, inclusive social attitudes that have stayed within my household ever since. I even attended my first gay pride parade when I was 6 months old. It wasn't all kumbaya, though. My parents divorced when I was just 5 months old, and when I was 2 years old, the FBI raided the commune we were living in, although my mother and I don't know why.
The Balance is available everywhere the books are sold, and Amy Borman reads the audio version. And if you need more info, links to coverage of the book, downloads, anything like that, you can go to Steve Cooper's website, SoCalJourno, as in journalist, journo.com. Amy and her mom need to do a FOIA request to find out, while you still can, why the hippie commune was raided. Okay,
Mm,
house settlement. Let me give you the deets, Spencer.
okay,
Here's what
let me know.
happened. So, as of July 1st of this year, NCAA schools can directly pay their athletes. So, pending any appeal, which there's 30 days to appeal, that means the NCAA has to share the wealth. So, over the next 10 years, the NCAA has to pay current and former athletes back pay for missed NIL opportunities. And that goes back to 2016 to 2024. So, going forward, number one, the changes that are going to happen. One,
Hmm.
scholarship caps are gone from specific sports. Scholarship caps. They are being replaced by roster caps per sport. Scholarship cap gone, roster caps in their place. Number three, exceptions are being made for designated athletes, and we're going to call them grandfathered athletes. So a 2025
That's
team
just what
or
every athlete wants to be called, a grandfather. But yes.
grandfathered. Yep. So if you're a 2025 team member or you're an incoming gymnast, we're going to talk about this for gymnastics. We're going to
Yeah,
call
'cause
everyone a gymnast.
yeah.
That's the one that matters. To 2026, you are grandfathered in. And this grandfathered spot, this is the important thing that makes it so complicated for the coaches who are all going to need a Huel, is that the nominative spot, it's or is
Nominative spot.
the
The
nominative
nominative
spot.
registration list. Yeah, yeah, I like it.
It's basically a nominative spot. So your designated means wherever you go, your eligibility follows you. So you have an exception to the roster cap. So if I'm an incoming freshman and then they're like, well, actually, we are reducing the roster cap. We don't have a space for you anymore. You can go somewhere else and you can fill that. You can be an extra person on the team. Let me
Mhm.
have Spencer. Can you explain how these three elements work together, basically?
Well, I
The
mean, can
scholarship,
anyone?
roster
But,
cap. Yeah.
okay, basically what we used to have, or currently have, but are about to not have in women's college gymnastics is you could have an unlimited number of people on the team, but you had a limit of 12 scholarship athletes who could have, their education, quote unquote, their education paid for by the school, um, tuition, room and board, that kind of thing. Everyone else did not have scholarship, but you could have as many people as you wanted on a team. Now, for women's college gymnastics, there is a roster limit of 20 athletes. All of them can be on scholarship if the school decides to pay for that and they want that. They don't have to, but they have everyone on your roster can be on scholarship, but now you have a roster limit. The judge did not approve that as originally written because the judge said you're eliminating opportunities for people based on an artificial roster limit. So you're getting rid of people. So if a college gymnastics team had 23 people on their team ready for next season, they would have to call 3 of them into the head coach's office and be like, actually, bye-bye, because we can only do 20. You're not on the team anymore. The judge said you can't do that. There has to be a mechanism, which it turns out is a voluntary mechanism, which is part of it. But there has to be a mechanism to allow those athletes not to lose a spot on a roster they already had, basically, for next season. So that's the change to it. But, it makes it much more complicated, but the solution is you're not just like kicking people to the curb because they suddenly don't meet the roster limit, even though last year they did.
Yep. I have heard from a lot of coaches that this is like basically the biggest thing that they're worried about is the nominative grandfathered spot, because some athletes are already jockeying for the spot, which that's what they should be doing. They're competitors, they're competing for a spot, but that it's causing some trouble on teams. And it's like, well, that's your job to, lay down the law and create the culture. But also that the biggest thing is the money schools can afford now to have basically, let's say 30 people on a team, because if you have 20, that's your roster cap, but then you can have 10 of your grandfather designated
I
athletes
have 10 whole grandfathers. Yeah.
for one for like one season, because it's only basically for the incoming freshmen for this and this next coming season. And if there's someone that already got like kicked to the curb because of the roster cap. I'm saying it so delicately, kicked to the curb.
Yeah. But it is an
So,
indelicate thing to do. So I think it's reflecting it. It's fundamentally indelicate, but
yeah. But the nice thing is you can pay them as much as you want with the
well,
NIL if you
nice
have
for
it,
football players, maybe.
right? Okay, so I want to go into the details of this a little bit about how this is all going to work. So there's 2 prongs of NIL going forward. So prong 1 is the pay up prong, which it's
I like
officially
it.
designated on GymCastic as the pay up prong.
The
So
pay
this
up
is
prong? Yeah.
the NCAA has to pay and the schools have to pay into this fund. That's the damages fund. So we lost out on this money. Everyone pays into the damages fund. They created a college sports commission, and that will oversee compliance and enforcement of the damages fund. So this is run by former U.S. District Attorney and a VP of legal for the MLB, Steely. MLB being Major League Baseball. So they've never had any controversies or problems with money or cheating or anything like that. So this person will be, Celia should be very familiar with all the problems that can come from this. And this is also, and again, this is the College Sports Commission, not controlled by the NCAA. It's separate. So they are expected to have a $2.8 billion damages pool. That's part of the settlement. And that damages pool is, of course, the back pay owed to former and current students for missing out on NIL. And so, how will the NCAA pay for this? You might be asking, Spencer. Well,
Well, yeah, let me know. Tell me.
it is funny how the NCAA is a $2 billion with a B dollar organization, and now they owe $2 billion because they're a nonprofit, but somehow $2 billion they have. So, first, their treasure vault, which is hidden under the stairs in case you didn't know where to find it.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
then paying out less to their partners. So they are expected to be reducing by a quarter the normal distributions that they have from, like, we have a TV deal to broadcast the sport. Normally we'd give, like, let's say the Power 5 conferences this amount. The Power 5 conferences are now expected to get a quarter of what they would have gotten because the NCAA has to pay back the money that they were making off of athletes' backs. So, for example, what who so it's a quarter less, just to,
Not a
if
quarter.
that was
Okay.
right, not a quarter, they're paying a quarter less than they used to. So, but who's in these, like, who's the Power 5 sports
Yeah,
of
I mean
conference teams?
I feel like we as a podcast reject the notion of Power 5 conferences because
We
that is a
do.
football thing. And we don't
Yes.
acknowledge that. But there are wealthy conferences like the SEC, which has Florida, Oklahoma, now LSU, etc. You have the Big Ten, which has your Michigans and now also has UCLA in it. Those are kind of, I guess, the biggest, wealthiest conferences now. Pac-12 is basically bye-bye. Oregon State's like, guys, hey,
It's just us
help.
alone.
We don't have a conference. Jade's done with her eligibility. What are we gonna do?
So that's the first prong, the pay up prong. The second prong of this is the pantheon prong. And why am I calling it the pantheon? Because you need to think of this. This is your offering to the sports gods. Is your offering worthy? You have to present your offering to Deloitte, and Deloitte will deem it worthy or not. So basically, the NCAA is not an NIL clearinghouse. They're not having anything to do with this. Schools can now use up to 22% of their annual sports revenue, like your media sales for TV rights, your ticket sales, sponsorships, and they can now pay that into athletes directly, up to 22%, which is supposed to be like 20 million per school ish. And this is just the schools that are bought in, that are in the settlement. So not every school has to do this. But so Deloitte is the new clearinghouse for NIL. So if your deal is over $600, it is worthy of the sports gods, and you present it to Deloitte, and Deloitte will enforce the deals. Their job is to assess whether this is fair market value. And so Deloitte is a financial institution that does this, like accounting firm. But so Spencer, I just wondered if you foresee any problems with the fair
Do I
market
foresee any
value.
problems?
The
Well,
fair
that is
market
something we
value.
talked about, and that is something that Livy Dunn testified about, basically saying my valuation has never been correct. Like in any sort of those articles that people publish, like the athletes who are getting most, this is our opportunity to use a picture of Livy Dunn that people will click on, and now we have an article about it. That they're always wrong on their estimates of her value, worth, income from NIL. So, what is the fair market value? What is your assessment of gymnastics market value? What is your assessment of women's sports market value? Because they are traditionally undervalued, like forever and always, since the NCAA invented women in 1982, because women didn't exist before that. So you have concerns about what is actually being established as fair market value.
And I think about like the NCAA just giving away TV rights for women's sports for years. Like literally, it's free. But also broadcast this for free. And also, you don't have to make your earnings public. I mean, there's no place where everyone can see exactly what Livy Dunn has made on every single deal. This is why these like NIL rankings are so goofy, because the only people that know that are their agents who would have negotiated the deals if they're with an agency. So, and also another thing that just happened is in a new deal from last year, the NCAA lowered their value of NCAA gymnastics, which is insane that they did that. What are they talking about? But let's talk about the good ideas, the good things that are happening.
Good ideas? Yeah.
Which is your favorites can now get paid. This is the damages pool for back pay goes from 2016 to 2024. So I was specifically looking at which athletes missed the 2021 start date of NIL, so they didn't have the opportunity to profit at all. So the viral floor routine era of we have Ohashi. First of all, Ohashi, Nia Dennis, Mars, Hallie Mozette a little bit, Sofina de Jesus, who went on TV for her floor routine. The 2016 Olympians, the Rio Olympians, Koshin competed in NCAA. Kyla Ross competed in NCAA. She gets back pay now. Can you imagine? Kyla Ross, what she would have made in NIL. I mean,
NIL is not based on how much we enjoy watching someone's gymnastics. I will say it should be. It should be, but it's probably not.
Other elites who get some back pay, even though Nora Flatley was in the beginning of this, she can get more back pay. Skinner can get back pay. Maggie Nichols and the OU Dynasty teams. The final UCLA championship team is now eligible.
The
final, the last
the
one.
last forever. They can never win again.
They were second this year, but that's it for them. Sarah Finnegan of the original Finnegan Beautiful Wolf Turn, she can now get NIL money. Evie Elizabeth Price, alternate for the London team, is now eligible to for her back pay as well.
So
The
you're
thing,
listing people who would be theoretically eligible, not necessarily they're getting money.
right, theoretically eligible, and you have to buy into this. The bummer about this too is that who's missing out, either by the cutoff date or because if you're not a US citizen, you're not eligible to be paid. If you were here on a student visa, you're not eligible for this. If you were here on a student visa and you also got a green card while you were here, you got a special work permit or something, then you are. But if you were on a student visa, no, because so this is people that weren't in school that would have made a lot of money or weren't in school by July 21st. So the first ever viral college floor routine, Lemencia Hall,
Too
not
early.
eligible for this. Too early. The Olympians from abroad, Ruby Harrell, Danusha Francis, Courtney McGregor, Maddie Gardner, Peng Peng, Brittany Rogers, not eligible. The Canadians. So that's a bummer. Spencer, a lot of people have said that this is going to be the end of Olympic sports and the end of so-called non-revenue sports, like men's gymnastics. Like, this is it. So, are they all gone?
I think we don't know yet. I think it is worth being concerned because you have to kind of put your faith in people who haven't necessarily demonstrated interest in anything except money before. You now have to put your faith that they're going to fund your program when they have an out. They have an excuse to be like, oh, well, we have the money. It's going these different directions now, so we couldn't possibly fund a men's college gymnastics team. So I think the concerns are founded. This is still a necessary thing to do to compensate people for making money for an institution that was previously just making money without sufficiently compensating the people who were making that money. But yeah, I think it's, worth being concerned. It is a legitimate, very legitimate concern about what happens to sports that lose money for their institutions when schools can decide like, oh no, too much money.
Hmm. I feel like men's gymnastics, as long as your student body loves you, you have a chance because men's sports are subsidized by the students. That's who, the students usually pay a fee. It's crazy. I was just looking at this because San Francisco State, where I went, just had another vote. I went to school there when they had one vote and it was like $20 to save sports. And the students were like, yeah, we'll pay $20 a semester to save sports. But then I look at what they pay in like the SEC and it's like $300, $400 or something. It's way more. Don't quote me on this podcast that goes publicly, but it's over $100 that they pay. And I was like, this is so much more at some of these schools than what the state schools are paying. And I just think that a big part of this is like the athletes really, back when we were there, like their athlete friends, they appreciated and they saw how hard they worked and they liked to go watch them and cheer them on. And so they supported that. And so make sure your student body doesn't hate you. But yeah, I think it's important. And the other people that are talking about how, well, this is going to create a bidding war for recruiting. And I'm like, first of all, that's already been happening. The bidding war, there are 100% athletes who've gone places because, a booster or someone has said, yeah, we'll just pay for
I
you
have
to.
I have $20 million. Do you want it? You're not a pro athlete.
Right. Come here. It's totally amateur. Like that's already been going on. But and I do see like to the point of, this is now it's about sports and not athletics. No, wait, that's the same thing. It's about
It's about sports, but not
and not
athletics.
school.
That's how Jessica describes golf. It's a sport, but it's not athletic.
Not athletic at all. Not at all. Oh, how I hate golf. So not women's golf. I have no problem with it. They are not ridiculous like the pro men's golfers are. And obviously I'm just talking about the pros because even I have played golf with a lot of
How dare you?
handstands and
Traitor.
cartwheels in the
Traitor.
middle of it. But uh it's about now, instead of being about school and education, it's about sports. But like that has been the case for 50 years.
Mhm.
There is that certain places still care about school and certain do not at all. Like if your schools don't have rules about you have to, unless you have a stalker, like actually go to class or show up, or yeah, that went out the window. But for some people, that's a positive thing because this is the only thing that's going to get them into college, and it's the only thing that's going to get them any kind of education beyond high school. So that's positive. Like they are in an environment where they can learn things. For other people, it's a hindrance. They don't get to. You're too freaking tired to pay attention in school. So this brings up my argument. I think we talked about this in behind the scenes about my um, the one of my athletes, one of my gymnasts that I coached in high school and also club, I encouraged her to do a study abroad. And now her family is not very happy with me because she did a study abroad in Italy and never came back. So, but I talked about how we went to visit her, and and fact checker basically argued over like 3 hours at Italian dinner in Rome about how sports and college should not be mixed together and they should never be together. And it was, yeah, it's a unique kind of thing. Japan has this too, but not the way we do, and it's an argument. Okay, my biggest thing about this was like, what about the Title IX implications? Like, do they have to distribute this equally, this money, this NIL money, these deals? Um, and especially the damages, $20 million that they can, the 22% that they can allocate to these. And the settlement does not, it protects them from Title IX lawsuits. So, but it doesn't stipulate that they have to distribute the money equally at all. So that is still something that could be argued in an appeal. And it's too bad that this decision was not decided earlier under a different administration that had specific regulations about how Title IX had to be regulated, because now there'll be none of that in this administration. Anything else that you want to say about this? Anything else you've heard from coaches or athletes? Fears, hopes,
I don't
dreams?
think so. There's just so much still uncertainty. Like this kind of the hope is that like one of these settlements, one of these lawsuits will provide some actual direction to college sports of like, okay, this is the system, this is how it's moving forward. But there are still so many moving pieces and so many lawsuits that we really don't know how it's going to play out, especially for programs like gymnastics. So TBD. My overall my overall conclusion is we'll see.
Um, Gymternet news. It's time. But to this point, I want to bring up first that Fisk might be eliminated. There was a discussion with the president. This might be eliminated. But now there is a fight to save it and to fundraise. So it's a work in progress to save the team. It's good that the team has good that the Fisk is open to saving the team because like Minnesota, they did not care. They were not going to reinstate men's gymnastics, no matter what. So we'll see what happens. Okay, speaking of USA Gymnastics,
Mm-hmm.
USAG CEO Li Young is stepping down. She announced that she will step down from her position as CEO at the end of 2025. So,
Yes.
what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, I think ultimately it is a net loss for gymnastics because I think she's had a positive tenure. I mean, I was thinking like, is she the best executive USAG or the whatever the governing body under various names has ever had? Yeah, I do think so. It's a low bar, but I think yes, she is the best one they've had, which is not to say it's been perfect, but it is to say it's been a positive overall tenure that has improved both the reputation of USA Gymnastics, the position of USAG as an organization. You know, you learn, like, you see when we talk about USAG, there was a period where it was like, all right, in USAG news, sigh, eye roll, we have to talk about USAG. And now it's like, okay, USAG news, here's what's happening. Like, what I would associate, like, if I were to pick a word to associate with Lili's tenure at the head of USAG, it's professionalism, because it
Yeah.
felt like a sense of professionalism was restored, or not even restored, maybe brought to the first time to the organization. That's, we're going to operate, we're not going to fly by the seat of our pants. We're not going to do whatever we feel like. We're going to operate professionally using standards. And I think that has been the most positive change, and why USAG, which I think was lucky to get someone of Lili's capabilities in the first place, and why I think they'll ultimately miss not having her, or miss having her once she steps down.
Yep. I agree. I feel like what you said, like, about professionalism, I so agree with. There is just a sense of everything is more professional, and the thing about her that I think is so good, and which I hope that she helps find the new leader of USA Gymnastics, because the biggest thing about past leaders is they led from ego, and just in having conversations like with Steve Penny, like, everything was like, if anyone said anything bad about USA Gymnastics, they immediately took it personally. And you can't be like that. Because if you're the leader of anything, people are going to talk shit about you all the time and you're going to get so much hate. That's just how it is. You're going to have haters. And so she just never took the bait with that. Like, she always just like, I have to stay to the mission and not be distracted by any like person. I cannot take things personally.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and I think that's so important. So someone that's not leading from ego, that is not distracted by those things. And I think she left USA Gymnastics better than she found it. Not perfect. It still has little problems. But it's definitely better than it was. It's like a real professional organization now. Um, what do you want to see? Who would your ideal candidate be? Or your forget candidates. The ideal person. Who
Because I
is
was
it?
going to say the ideal candidate is someone I've never heard of. Like, because it should be someone who has the executive experience to lead USAG, and I haven't heard of these people. I haven't heard of executives, so yeah, someone I've never heard of is probably the best candidate. Um, but you want someone, and we were talking about this on behind the scenes some. The difficulty was someone who can balance the necessities of financially growing gymnastics in a place, because that is, it's good for the sport, it's necessary, who can, bring in continue to bring in sponsorships and that kind of thing, without sacrificing the personal aspect of it, while still being sensitive to the needs of changing the culture, which is not a done process at all, and is still in damage control phase. I think that's what I was saying
Yeah.
before. Is like, don't think that the damage control part is done. You always need to be in apology phase for past actions, and
Yep.
still making good on a commitment to improve things, rather than just saying like, okay, that's over now, it's fixed, I'm brand new, here's what we're doing.
Yep.
Because I think that would be a mistake.
And I think what you said when we were talking about this behind the scenes was like you talked about compassion too. Someone that has compassion
How
for the athletes.
did I? I must
I
have been
know it
in a
was
good mood. I
like
must have been energetic. It was Friday. If you catch me on a Friday, I might talk about compassion or feelings. Who can say?
uh,
All bets are off.
and I think part of the thing that I would really like to see from someone is they have the experience leading an actual professional organization, because most sports organizations are not professionally run. They are run like a family with a lot of infighting who have no it's like an extended family reunion, and everybody knows each other and everybody's had history with each other, and everybody's like a little too close, so they don't always hold their tongue and stay professional, and they talk too much and everybody knows everything, and your aunties are always gossiping and the uncles are always a little drunk, and I'm just speaking from personal experience,
Oh,
but
are you? Mm.
I yeah. So I would like it to be someone with that kind of like, this is a healthy professional organization where we
Mhm.
have HR and they perform tasks. But the biggest thing I think is like the organization is more professional, but the way the individual sports run themselves, each discipline, specifically artistic, it's not really changed. There's still a culture of fear. Is it better? Yes. But is it a place where everyone feels like they can, there's no emotion involved and they can just be honest and open and won't ever have any retaliation, or people won't tell other people what they said in a meeting? No, that's not the culture. And that is what I would really like to see that change. Like the national team camps, especially for artistic, I think are just there could be, and this isn't because I'm not criticizing the people involved. It is, I know that there's people involved that want this. But it's the having the leadership be like, yeah, this is how we're going to change it. Yeah. So if anyone has any candidates, let us know who's the perfect person to lead. Oh, also, I just want to say I feel like, I don't know. There's no official reason for why Lily's leaving, but I would say this is the peak. We talked about this on behind the scenes a lot, but this is the peak. She goes out on top with the way this administration is doing to the economy and making the U.S. an unstable place to invest in. With an Olympics coming up, right now is the best time for her to leave because she's at the top and she will leave successfully and she can go. I would love to see her go to any of the women's sports leagues. Obviously, I would love to see her run the FIG or the IOC or something, but I also am like, oof, if she thought USAG was bad, FIG is a whole nother thing, and it's even less power over the committees and stuff. So, yeah, I don't know if that's gonna happen, but don't you think she would be a good fit in like the pro soccers, or the WNBA?
Yeah, I think she would be a good fit in a lot of places. Because she has this, especially having this experience now of guiding USA Gymnastics to a better place.
Yep.
Even though every time we say like better place, it's like we recognize it's still not perfect. There's
Right.
still mistakes. It's not like a biography of a saint of Lily's tenure. It's like good things.
Yeah.
Progress.
Which is like, when we criticize other countries, or we like, I'm just like, you guys know we live in the United States, right? Like we are criticizing ourselves first. We are not the example. There's some things we do well here, but there's a lot of things we don't. CIA in the 60s, and 70s, and probably now. But yeah, there is, just so you know, we are including ourselves in all the statements that we make.
If you are a college gymnastics coach who has suddenly realized they're going to have to find ways to make their sport look profitable in a new era of college sports funding, they're going to have to work extra hard, like double the time. And you know what they'll need to do that? Huel.
Our sponsor this week is Huel, spelled Huel. There is a Black Edition ready-to-drink option, so you can carry it, sneak it with you when you're covering a meet, or you're judging, or you're going on all of these recruiting trips, kind of trying to figure out how you're going to fill out your teams now. So it's not a snack, but it's better because it's a complete meal in a bottle. No purse portable blender needed for your which I may have used at many meets, gotten out my little portable blender and my powder and blended, much to everyone's annoyance, at the table where everyone's trying to work, and I'm like, zzz.
Can confirm. Confirm.
Yep. It has 35 grams of protein, 27 vitamins and minerals, high fiber, very important when you're traveling, low sugar. I mean, you guys, fiber when you're traveling, especially. I mean, fiber for everyone is super important, but especially when you're traveling, because you sit all day and then you might be off your constitutional schedule. It's very, very helpful. So you can feel focused and ready to pilfer the boosters' coffers, so you have all the funding you need in the new NIL era to fund your program. And the best part, no prep, no cleanup. You just grab your bottle and go. Huel Black Edition, 35 grams of protein. It's a complete meal. I love this because it's delicious and portable, and it tastes like a milkshake. And basically, it has to taste like a children's treat for me to eat it. And so new customers can get 15% plus a free gift using our exclusive code GymCastic at Huel.com. That's 15% plus a free gift for new customers using our exclusive code GymCastic at Huel.com. Please see our description for terms and conditions. Skip the stress, not the nutrition. Try Huel today for complete nutrition bottled.
Club Gym Nerd, you get discounts and first dibs on live show tickets, an extra whole podcast every week, athlete dossiers for major competitions, code guides, options to commission your own segments. It also makes a great gift. Check it out at gymcastic.com at the Join the Club tab.
Oh, Mary Lou Retton update. Speaking
Okay.
of which, some East Coast news because this happened in West Virginia. So TMZ reported that they are in contact with Mary Lou Retton and that she is fine. And none of that abandoned home stuff is true, that whoever reported that did not actually talk to any of her family or neighbors or anything, and that she's fine. So that is the Mary Lou Retton DUI update. Oh, exciting news at USA Gymnastics. I'm very pleased with this. So Damon Jones, who was a guest at our live show at NCAAs, who's the most now the WCC head coach, Simone's old gym where she worked out. Not her gym, it's her mom's gym, but it is where she worked out. So he is now part of the USA Gymnastics staff development program, which is like, thank God. You need an artistry artist person who is, part of the team that teaches the international judges what artistry looks like. That is what Damon does. And this is super, super important. And this is how the US, lost a medal on floor at the Olympics. Has to do with artistry. So, because are we calling leaps art? Are we calling the 7/10?
I mean, I would separate leaps from artistry. I think those are two very different things because we've all seen plenty of gymnasts with beautiful leaps who are not given anything in artistry.
Yeah, that's true. So I'm calling the 8/10 that you don't have to do all the stuff, and you can pay yourself, as the Australians would say, all that artistry and not get any deductions there. It's a very important thing to have in your back pocket if you miss a leap and don't get credit.
Always say to yourself, which is easier? Learning a front pike on beam or adding releve to my choreography? Because those are both a 10th. Or, if you're upgrading a front tuck to a front pike.
Teachable moments with Spencer Biles.
Which is easier for me to do.
Who's moving, Spencer? There's many movings happening.
Lots of movings, all related. Basically, we have more fallout from the Crandall Howells going from Cal to Clemson. We have Quincy Walters changing commitment from Cal to Michigan. We have Adele Aussie changing her commitment from Clemson to Arizona State. So all kinds of moving pieces.
In the dumpster fire news, this was so shocking to me. So Jihan, who was the coach of Ashton Locklear, who was great on bars, a USA, she was an Olympic alternate in in Rio. He has received a lifetime ban from SafeSport. Lifetime ban. So he was on a temporary sanction for the last 2 years. Obviously, he can appeal this decision now. But in 2018, Ashton told the New York Times that Han physically and emotionally abused her, and at one point threw a cell phone at her. What's with all these coaches and throwing the shoes and the bar scrapers and the phones? Control yourselves, people. Han denied the allegations. Several other athletes who trained at Everest also came forward over ensuing years describing similar experiences to Han. I think it's really interesting that this has happened when well, there's a couple things. Okay, number one, an
Mhm.
athlete who said that the things that Ashton Locklear said were not true or don't believe everything. So it you know, didn't specifically say Ashton's lying, but said not everything you hear is true. And regarding Han, then went on to be the athlete rep for USA Gymnastics. Um, and I wonder if she sees those things differently now. I wonder if the athletes who voted for her see things differently. Um, but some people, they don't see what happened as bad. And I think that the reason this took so long is because the first thing I did, of course, is I reached out and asked people who, to my sources, and were like,
Mhm.
how the hell did he get banned when Maggie Haney only got 8 years? And, we know that Al Fong has an allegation against him of choking an athlete. And, like between him and Valeri, there's like 50 and 30 allegations at SafeSport. They've never even had a sanction against them. Um, how did he get banned? And what I was told by my sources is that there were so many people involved at every level, domestic, international, from judges to parents to meet directors to athletes to coaches, um, worldwide, who had reported what they had seen. Let me repeat
Mm.
that. Worldwide. That is why it took so long to go through the evidence. And then the center released a statement that said that this investigation involved over 80 witnesses. So thousands of pages of evidence, transcripts, allegations that span decades. So I'm it's I'm still like, I just didn't think this would happen. I'm encouraged that this has
Mhm.
happened. And I'm encouraged also that um, it took almost like 10 years to do this, but at least it finally happened.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah. What do you think? Were you surprised that
No, I mean, not surprised. It is still but the length of time these things take is still a huge problem, and like you mentioned, it's very difficult because to have transparency in this cases like these because you do want to be first and foremost protecting of the identities of anyone who is accusing someone who maybe doesn't want their identity public or anything like that. Like there is very good reasons why you would not be super transparent about what's happening in individual cases for the Center for Safe Sport. But there is this disconnect between okay, we like you mentioned, we know that this person has allegations against them with SafeSport, and we've never heard anything. And there's this consequence for this person and this consequence for this person. It feels very, from an outsider's perspective who doesn't know the details, feels very arbitrary. And you still want more efficiency and clarity in terms of how these things are being handled. But like you mentioned, when you have consequences actually imposed, if your actual findings and consequences imposed, that's a positive step.
I agree. Um, this week on the socials, I want to talk about. I mentioned this before, but there was the Masters World Cup, so an adult gymnastics meet. Masters means grown-ups who are like retired from the regular levels of competing. That's what masters means. But people are unfamiliar with that in gymnastics. When I first started my adult gymnastics website, I called it Masters Gymnastics, but like people didn't know what that was. But that's what they use in other sports. It's called Masters. So
And you can
anyway,
just call yourself officially a gymnastics master forever. And you should get yourself
right.
a jacket in script that says gymnastics master on the back. I mean, that's a given.
My God, this is the buy-in to get people to do it. So I want to thank Nate Sharp from NEIGC who competed in this, because there were teams from all over the world who competed in this Masters World Cup in Leipzig as part of the European Championships. They had Turnfest, and he is allowing me to, if you're a visual listener, share the video compilation he made of the competition. And you can see what I love about this is, like, I told him, like, can I share this, because I tell people all the time how fun these meets are and how there's a total variety of competition, and how, like, it's just not what you think. You can do different skills and you can wear what you want, and you don't have to be an ex elite to do this. And it's just super fun. And this video totally shows it. And I love that you can see women wearing shorts, women wearing tights. You can see people competing cartwheels. You can see someone competing, a branny dismount, or there's people doing all levels of skills there. And there's really cool stuff. Like one guy did, just a front tuck, front tuck dismount,
Mhm.
which you never see. Just fun, cool, interesting things. And you see the camaraderie. Germany won. Japan was there. There's Nate doing his Iron Cross and winking, which, hello, he's doing exactly what we
Performance
expect.
quality, artistry.
Thank you. Exactly. The British were there, the US, they had, and I like their uniforms too. There was, I just, you guys, it's so fun to do adult gymnastics. And if you don't remember Nate and Julia Sharp, they are the like MIT geniuses who retired at 30 or whatever, and now they do lots of NAIGC stuff. And Julia is the one that had twins and still does gymnastics. Here she also does the gymnastics how many things when you do
Decathlon?
all the events?
All 10?
Yeah, all 10 events. She competes in them. And so we've talked about her before, how yes, you can do gymnastics as an adult, you can have twins and do gymnastics. You can, and she was the one that was walk on her hands when she was pregnant with the twins, and here she is, competing here, doing her double pike on floor. So it's fun, but you don't have to be um you don't have to be an elite to do this. There's a category and the rule in Germany is if you're over 40, you have to do this low bench instead of the beam. And I understand that because it's bone density and stuff, but I would obviously go submit my DEXA scan, which really I'm just going to make a shirt with my DEXA scan on it to be like,
Apparently at this point.
you know what happens if you grow up and don't stop doing gymnastics until you're 38? Apparently, and do all the jumping sports. Apparently, you have the bones of an elephant. Do elephants have really strong bones? I don't know, but I imagine they do. Anywho, yeah, I was always so offended by that. But then I did go to an adult gymnastics meet where somebody over 40 did a beam routine for the first time, just jumped off and broke her femur. So I was like, oh, maybe there was something to this whole perimenopause thing where your hormones don't put all the stuff in your bones. But anywho, there's all kinds of levels and it's super fun. So thank you so much to Nate. And if you guys want to check out something like that in the US, adult-gymnastics.com, adult gymnastics camp there is. And also check out NAIGC because this is what their big meet is like. And you can do all the events. Did you see the video? Because I know you follow tennis for some,
Yeah.
I don't know why. But Allie and Nora did a mic'd up video watching the tennis.
Oh, I did not see
It
that.
was okay. My favorite thing about this, they were watching the women's, obviously. I think the Coco won.
Mhm.
And they were on the slidey courts, not the regular. What's the
Clay.
slidey? Play. Thank you. Which always makes it more fun when the ground moves in
Mhm.
whatever sport you're doing. So they
Which
did a
has
mic'd up.
very interesting implications for electronic officiator if the ground is
Yes.
moving, which we've talked about when talking about gymnastics and electronic out of bounds on floor
Yeah.
and things like that.
So they were watching this tennis final, and it was my favorite thing about it is that I looked at, I was like, how is this performing compared to all the other tennis videos from this? Theirs was the highest on Instagram. They got more views than all the tennis. And I was like, see, this is why you bring in a Nora and an Allie to come. And one time Allie was like, and also they were eating cookies and chatting about, do you remember when we used to be
Having a great
this
time.
intense, having the best time? And they were like, what music do you think she's listening to? Do you remember when we used to be this intense? Oh God. I was like, that's right. You guys just get to sit and eat macaroons and enjoy your lives
You put
now.
in your time.
That's right.
You finished.
We have a mini commission this week, which if you guys want to do a mini commission, you can. They are open. It is from world champion level club gym nerd.
You're a clubbard. What a flattering word.
Sarah, who said,
Yes. Sarah said options for professional gymnasts in the past, present, and possibly future. I'd love to hear more about the Bundesliga setup, any other options in the past, for example, exhibition meets like the Reese's Cup, and updates on the Giga League. Excellent. Excellent question.
okay, Spencer, let's talk about Bundesliga first. And also,
Yeah.
Kensley wrote a great article. It's on gymcastic.com that we will link to that you can check out that explains this in depth. So how does Bundesliga work?
It's different for men and women, but it is a gymnastics league where you're on a team and you're competing against other teams. The women's is more like a team final or team qualification at Worlds kind of format. The men have a much more complicated format where it's head-to-head dual routines where you go back and forth and you get points based on how much you outscored the person on the other team that you were going head-to-head with for a routine. So there's a format like that, showing that there are many different format options that you can have. But that's kind of how the gymnastics works in the Bundesliga, how the format works at least.
It's funny that I you can earn money and it is international.
Mhm.
Um And the thing that I kind of that's weird. I was thinking, I was like, I don't really consider this like a pro league because it's run by the federation. So the athletes are chosen by the federation.
How I feel like the FIG needs to run World Apparatus and Challenge Cups more like a tennis event than
Yes.
a gymnastics event. But probably a conversation for another day. But I have many strong opinions about that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this is part of the question is like, what do we want to see in the future and past? And so let's go to the past first before we talk about the future.
Okay.
So um, there have been men's and women's pro meets, but never a
Mhm.
league. Like there was, and there's been lots of shows. Like I don't consider the Reese's Cup a professional gymnastic. Like they get paid to do a show, but it's not real
Yeah.
judging and it's not real.
Right.
None of it's. And then there was after the 96 Olympics, there was a single meet that looked like it was like in a high school gym that was supposed to be a professional, event. And like Dominic Dawes did it. And it was men's and women's together. But that, didn't go anywhere. So I think the best actual pro event that we have seen has been, at least my favorite, has been the Pro Gym Challenge that ESPN did. Okay, I know it was
I'm
not
making a face.
perfect.
If you're just listening, I made a face at Jessica, but I will let you finish and
I
explain your bad opinion before I tell you that it's bad.
This was messy and it was not they didn't have enough time to prepare the athletes
Hmm.
for how you perform on television and what is required. Like you can't just jump off the beam and be like, "Well, I did it." Like it's a show. Even if it's a professional sport, it's still a show. Just ask those football players that roll all on the ground. And by football, I mean soccer. So it was Team Boganskaya versus Team Nastia. That's where it was Adelchev came from.
Famous moment.
That's famous moment, but
Very important.
it was a skill for skill team competition. So basically, one person jumped up on beam and they did one skill and the other person had to one up that skill and then the next person jumped up. The problem with this is there's like a ton of downtime and sometimes someone would do something and just like shrug and jump off. And you're like, "No, you have to act like that was the greatest thing you've ever done. Be Chelsea Memel doing a pistol squat on the floor and cheer for yourself and make muscles. This is how you sell TV." But I thought it had a lot of potential, but we only got it one time. What did you think?
I would put it in the same category as the Reese's Cup kind of thing, where this is not real. This is not a sport. This is just then like with fake judging and not really anything real happening. I think the consistent failure with professional gymnastics attempts has been they're not they're they're not doing a sport. Like they're not treating it like a sport that has competition that you would be excited by. It's just kind of a show. And I think that's like a through line consistently of the mistakes has been what am I rooting for? What is the competition here? Why would I be interested in this? And I think they're too focused on like be amazed by how amazing gymnasts are, which only gets you to so far because like lots of things are hard. There's a reason like you know, that no one watches professional coal mining on TV. That's not saying it isn't hard. That's not saying it's not hard work, but it also has to be entertaining. There has to be, like, if you made it a competition, like, you could win at mining and it had rules that made sense that you could follow, maybe people would watch it.
This is why the international firefighting competition, which is really a parkour contest,
Mm,
is with dragging bodies, is very entertaining to watch, but only in clips. I've never seen the whole thing. But like run with a ladder, and then you have to like jump and run up a building with the ladder, and then carry the ladder down the other side, then drag a person, 50 feet or
mhm.
whatever. It's a dummy. It's not a real person, although it should be, because
Oh,
that
it
would be
should be a
more
real person? Is
realistic.
that what you're saying?
Yes, that's more realistic. Um, anyway,
Anyway, yes,
so
there have been lots of tries in the past. None of them have really gone anywhere.
yeah. And I think a lot of it is, and there's Serie A in Italy
Mhm,
series, but that is also a federation run circuit. But at least it's like a circuit. It's like a mini tour, and the gymnastics is great. The level is very high. I think the reason that it's failed in the United States is it's always been a show and it's not been real, or it's always been like put this together super fast to just see
mhm.
if it works on TV, and it hasn't been actually developing the foundation
Agreed.
for a league. And when we look at the leagues that are around the world, like, these things have been around for 50 years. They started like as, a mess, and then it takes a long time to get the money and the eyes and all of the stuff to get things to where they are now. Like, I think it's amazing how like women's soccer and the WNBA are doing. Um they're so much farther ahead than the men's sport was when they started their pro leagues. And I know they're on like the 15th edition of them. Like a lot of them
Mhm.
fail.
Yeah.
Just like in basketball, there used to be like several different basketball leagues. In baseball, I used to have a bunch of different leagues, the segregated leagues, until they've become what they are. But so keeping that in mind, because I feel like everybody wants everything out of the box to be perfect and be
Yeah.
exactly what the dream is.
Mhm.
And the thing that I've learned through Giga, and again, like I can't say a lot because I'm just an advisor, and and I also am not, I can't say a lot. But what's interesting to me about it is you can basically try a one-off TV event to prove the concept, or you can get a billionaire to fund the foundation of a league. You can get a Michelle Kang, and um the thing that is it is it's so obvious that there should be something like this, but there's still so many times, like you see what Ohanian just did with the running. He had that event in like as a running league. It's called something fancy
Okay.
and exciting, but it's like all the best women sprinters. But it had a concert and it was a show, and like, the sprinting lasts for what is it? What is it, like 4 seconds? They do a 100-yard dash, something insane. But there was so much that went into that, but it was still like then they invested the rest after that like first event, I think. Um,
Mhm.
in an ideal world, there would be, a billionaire who's like, this is what I want to spend my money on. And there would be the investment to lay the foundation to have, just like teams do, you have a training center, and you have
Mhm.
a series that goes all year long, and it's international, and you recruit people from around the world and all that stuff. Um, but it's a process to get that going. But ideally, Giga would be teams competing against each other on a regular basis.
Mhm.
So that is the end goal. The process is very complicated and takes a lot. But the process is, yeah, it
So if
is
you were to define your ideal, because it was many commissions are nothing but opportunities for us to have fanciful thinking about what we would like the world to be. So if you
yeah.
were designing the Jessica League of professional gymnastics, what elements would it have? What would the competitions be like? What are you designing?
My dream, so this is not Giga. I'm not
This is
saying
just, yeah.
anything with
This
Giga
is if
points.
Jessica
This is
didn't have to
my
work,
dream.
if you didn't have to work with other people, if you could
Right.
just say something and make it happen.
If life wasn't a group project, if it was
Ugh,
just
yeah.
me as a dictator of the gymnastics, yes,
Mhm.
that I want. Um, I would want I would want basically the same format as the mixed team event that we just had at Euros, but it would be teams of gymnasts. So you can only compete, like, let's say, so the meets, let's say you have 4 teams, but it's head-to-head competition. You have to strategize. By the time you get to the last event, it's like 3 up, 3 count. So you can start
Mhm.
with, like, the whole team competes. Then the second round, you can only do 4, and then, 4 again, and then the last event, it's 3. I don't know, it's hard with numbers. Or maybe
Yeah.
we'd have 7, because that would make me even happier, a team of 7. Oh my god, because it's my league. So, yeah, I'd want 2 people per event. So, I want a minimum of an 8-person team,
Okay.
um, and then they would be from all over the world, and you'd have your specialists, and then every team would have a choreographer, and they would have a theme for their choreography. Like, this team is known for Soviet style elegance. This team is known for, like, hip hop, whatever. But they have a choreographer. And the choreographer, like, the way we see that ridiculous old man that wears his pajamas in baseball games, that would be the choreographer, is
I
the more
don't
important.
I truly
Who
have no
is
idea what you're talking about.
It's a
Who's
coach, but
wearing
they dress up.
pajamas?
The
Oh,
manager.
all the coaches dress like they're about to be put into the game in baseball, and it's deeply
Yes.
funny. Yes.
And then it looks like pajamas on them, the
Okay,
managers
just
in
the
baseball.
uniform, yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Um, because I cannot with how ridiculous that is. So, like, why are they wearing the same uniform? Anyway, that's for the this is what I hate
Yeah,
about other
yeah.
sports podcasts. That's our spinoff. So anyway, the choreographer would be the person that you focus on all the time. Like, they want that
Mhm.
coach to be the person. First of all, it'd always be the athletes would be number one, and coaches would just be an aside. But if you had to have the person that you wanted on camera to tell the story, it would be the choreographer. Because choreographers are the most
Mhm.
when, you know. It would also have all in between, like, rotation when warm-ups are happening. I would have TNT. I would have the competitive pole dancing, like the world champion pole dancing, where it's a
Mhm.
team and they have all different costumes on. And like, all those really cool, where it's like there would be something. We definitely have a mascot, first of all, Spencer.
Oh,
Um,
no. Now I'm protesting the league.
the
I'm done.
mascot would
I'm out.
be super fun and ridiculous. The mascot would be like the mascot that the New York Liberty have, the elephant, Ellie the elephant, which is basically a drag queen voguing in the old style of everyone else sucks and we're the best. And she has
Mm.
a team of helper men who carry her purse when she dances, and she's a total diva, and she always walks like she's on a runway, and I'm obsessed with her. I don't
Okay,
care about
got
the
it.
basketball, but I follow her. Anyway, but yeah, the match format where there's strategy about how you're putting up, and there would be interviews that are like, "Are you ready to do this routine? You just got put in because they did blah blah blah. Yes, I'm ready. Okay." And then there would be so much during the competition interviewing happening
Mhm. Mhm.
by
What
women
kind
interviewing
of
women.
code are we using here? Like, is it
Um,
we're writing our own code, I assume. We're not being like, "It's a
yes.
modified level 10 code, blah, blah, blah." Um, but is it that style, or is it like the Pro Gymnastics Challenge that you liked where we're doing skills? Do you have to have a full routine, or
No,
is
it's
it
full
more
routines. It's
Yeah.
full routines unless there's a tie, and then there's a skill off.
Ooh,
There's a
yeah.
flip off.
Mhm.
There's a something off. But you can choose who competes in it, but it's head to head. Um, and then you would also have it would be you would have a 10, but we're including difficulty. So I don't know if it would be like everything starts from a 9, or we just have E and D score, and when someone gets a perfect 10 E score, then
Yeah.
celebration and, balloons go off. What goes on? No, we don't want to pop balloons we want
Balloons go
confetti.
off.
We want biodegradable confetti to
Yeah.
go off.
Mhm.
Uh, that is what I would do. Okay, tell me yours.
Yeah, I think that I like the idea of we're using women's college gymnastics as a basic model in terms of
Are
format.
we?
I
Okay,
am.
you
I'm
are. All
saying
right, you
what
are.
mine is.
Okay.
I rather than elite in terms of routine composition. but we're writing an actual code. But that's the
Yes.
direction we're going in terms of we're mostly valuing execution. We're going to have capped difficulty, not excessive difficulty, but we're favoring like cleanliness of gymnastics over difficulty. So
Yes.
what I mean by using college gymnastics as a model is kind of going that direction. We are not dropping dropping scores ever. Every routine that you see counts. I like the idea of, I love a bracket. I love brackets
Me
more
too. I
than
love a
any human
bracket.
being. So I want to introduce a way to like each competition is bracketed with your team going head to head on different events, and that if you lose a duel, you're eliminated from the meet. So like you don't want to that's where you bring in the strategy. Like you don't want to waste someone who might lose on beam because you really want them for floor in the final, that kind of thing, because if you lose a duel you can't compete for the rest of the meet.
Yep.
And you're bracketing the teams, but it like there are lots of, I'm just extrapolating, there are lots of problems with that format. We could have like talk about it for 1,000 years, but I like the idea of head-to-head gymnastics brackets.
Yeah, I like that too. This could be a whole commission, just how we would run our league, and we
Yeah,
could debate it. And okay, what about uniforms? Because okay, we're going way over time on this, but
whatever.
obviously, like, yeah. Okay, so I want the uniforms to be like the teams have uniforms, but everyone has their own style. So you always know it's so and so goes because she always wears one long leg, one unitard on one side and short sleeve on the other.
Mhm.
Or she always has a backless leotard. Or so it's the same Leo, but they're different styles of Leos. So you can
Okay.
also show anyone watching that there are options for leotards that you can do gymnastics, and they don't have to always just be a leotard. There's some signature something to it.
Yeah. I like the idea of you have your color scheme for your team to differentiate you from the other team, but you can like, wear whatever you want.
Yeah, I like that. And is there okay, what would the trophy be? Because obviously it has to be so
Yeah. Yeah.
amazing and insane. And obviously it should be Prodenova's left eyebrow. But, since
Excellent
Russia's
idea.
canceled.
Yeah.
But we canceled the politics and the leadership, not the people. Like Texas, it's not the people of Texas who didn't vote for this shit. It is the politician who was doing the hateful things. So, yeah. So obviously Prodenova's left eyebrow.
Yeah. Or, my favorite gymnastics trophy there's ever been, which is Simone rolling her eyes when she got that bowl for like the millionth time. So I want the trophy is Simone holding a trophy and being like, what am I supposed to do with this? That's the trophy I want.
Okay, is
And
the trophy
it's like the Simone's annoyed cup. Like Simone's rolling her eyes cup.
Simone's
It's not
eye
just named
roll?
after Simone. It's named after Simone after that she did that bars routine and then was like that routine was a piece of shit. My favorite Simone moment ever.
So we just
Until this week. Simone, this week is my favorite Simone moment ever, but that was until this week. That was my
what do
favorite.
we give bonuses for in our league? Like, there's like MVP and all that boring stuff.
Oh,
But
like
what
awards?
yeah, like we should have special no, like a cash
A
money.
cash prize. Well, yeah. That's why you get like why wasn't the Longines trophy all those years? Why didn't it come with an extremely large cash prize for being
Right.
artistry? Yeah.
I think it did come with some kind of prize. But
This
yeah,
is where
what
you
should
can
ours be?
guess your idea. You've always wanted like an applausometer for
Yes.
floor scoring, which is terrible because then you are using people's terrible opinions about gymnastics to determine the results, which is, can you imagine? We don't want any of that, but like for an award afterward, fine. You can have like whoever won the floor applausometer award, which is just like a trophy of clapping because people loved your floor routine the most, I think is,
Yes.
I'm fine with that as an award.
No, that should be the Brooklyn Moors
Yeah.
trophy of art. The Brooklyn Ithora
Hmm.
insert Soviet gymnasts, because they were all fantastic. Of Yeah, I like that. Okay, is it going to be named after someone?
It's named after Simone's concept of Simone being annoyed.
Okay, perfect. I love this. If you want a mini commission like this, you can get one too. And you could make it so minute. You could just be like, describe the exact leotard variations that you want one team to have to implement, or describe all the prize money bonuses that would go to athletes, or describe how you would create your like fan system and what would their themes be and what would like you want your section, your fan activity to be. Like every fan has to like, some places like the freaking Switzerland and their cowbells, and other places it's freaking Switzerland. I mean, I love the cows and the bells, and Switzerland's beautiful, and I love that they've preserved the way of life of farming. Don't get me wrong, Switzerland, I can't wait to visit you when I can afford it. My way of affording it is I'm going to stay on a boat. That's how I'm going to afford Switzerland, because I've only been able to afford to look at it through on the train window while we whisk by, and that gave me vertigo. So I don't know how I'm going to handle Switzerland. But anywho, I'm just going to go to the flat part. Anyway, now that I've assured you I'm not making fun of the cows, these are the specifics you can do in a mini commission. Like you can get minute like this. So anyway, you can do it by joining Club Gym Nerd at the world champion level. And we have 2 commissions coming up in June. June is commission month. We have 3. We have 3 big commissions, whole episode commissions coming up. Club Gym Nerd. Get discounts and first dibs on live show tickets, and extra podcasts every week, athlete dossiers, code guides, commission your own segments of the show. It also makes a great gift. Check it out at gymcastic.com at the Join the Club tab. All right, we have some feedback. We couldn't get to this on Behind the Scenes, where we answer all of your questions on Fridays at noon Pacific or 7 GMT. But we had a question about scoring Nadia versus Olga. And Uncle Tim does have on gymnastics-history.com the 1975 code. If you guys want to look at it. I did not want to look at it, but I will make it available to you all. But the question from Kathy, go ahead, Spencer.
Kathy said, so I was on YouTube and the full 1976 Olympics competitions were suggested to me. At the beginning of the team finals, they were talking about the controversy of Nadia's score versus Olga's on bars. They were like, why is Nadia a 10 and Olga only a 9.9? They showed both routines at slow speed and were like, can you spot the difference? At least that's how I heard it. I thought it would be fun if you could score the routine and what you would actually give a score for each routine. And Kathy has linked to the routines for Nadia and Olga on bars at the 1976 Olympics.
I will provide this link so you guys can watch it too. But also, oh my God, you guys, why in the 70s did they play that song? This is what's playing over the slow motion of their songs. It's so depressing. It's the worst song. It's used for like every after school special about something horrible happening to someone. And then also on these routines, like I hate it so much. Now I have it stuck in my head and I'm upset. But anywho, it's not your fault, Kathy. It's the 70s fault. Okay, Nadia's routine. Nadia's routine. What are your... I have my thoughts on what I would take on her for her deductions, because they're not going to take, like, bent arms were not a thing back then on bars.
Yeah, you couldn't bend your arms. That physically, you were not allowed to bend your arms biologically until the 80s. We all know that.
Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
And like missed handstands, that wasn't a thing then. So I'm not taking those. But like she does have leg separation in one of her casts. Like her ankle bones are not touching. That's a deduction. And then she has a hop on her landing, famously, a very significant hop. Yeah. So those are the 2 biggest deductions. Is there anything you saw in Nadia's that you would take?
I think I agree with you that like the main thing is the very famous lesion stick when, her routine, the first 10. But if we're scoring with, most present day deductions not being a thing in mind, there's not a lot else to take. I agree with you. I mean, my general sentiment is that watching these back to back, I'm like, oh, Olga's is better.
It is.
I think Olga's is better.
Yeah, and Olga's
she also doesn't stick, but it's not as large of a landing error as Nadia's.
She moves one foot in. but it's like a shuffle. But Nadia's is much bigger, and the one thing is Nadia's, I feel like, is a preview of what the future is going to hold, which with more straight lines on bars, so more
Mm-hmm.
verticalness. Whereas Olga's is more the old school, which was not a deduction then there, which is a lot of arching handstands, arching positions. Like arching was seen as the thing that was rewarded. I mean, Jesus, did they have that compulsory routine where basically you stand on a lunge and just like try to touch your freaking nose hair to your foot? I was like, God, that's like having a straddle split in the. There should never be a straddle split in floor because not everybody can do that physiologically. It's not actually possible for everyone. Speaking of someone who could not do it, but that's a scientific fact. Right in anatomists. What's a person that studies anatomy and we're anatomist? That's what I'm going to call them. So yeah, I mean, I never really considered this before, but I'm like, oh, it's better. It's a better routine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm going with it.
yeah. I'm sure Olga has never forgotten that either. Did you see my bars? Yeah. We have a very important letter.
Now we need a whole mini commission called just like comparing Olga and Nelly Kim and Nadia's routines, whose was actually better. I mean, that's a great commission if you were looking
That
for an idea.
is. Oh my God, you guys. Julia Perotti appreciation.
Fabio says, can we talk about Julia Perotti and how perfect her gymnastics is when she doesn't fall, bless? She didn't have the greatest time at Euros and wasn't at full strength after a hand injury, but I feel like her technique, execution, and movement quality are already incredibly polished for such a young athlete. Even her falls happened on pretty skills. I mainly hope the Italian Federation doesn't screw up her senior career, because once she gains maturity and experience and more D on vault and the all-around, she could be the next big thing on the world stage.
Fabio, I cannot emphasize how much I agree with you about this. Spencer actually, I think, has gotten sick of hearing me say Perotti because I'm so obsessed with her.
You do love her, but it's
And
warranted.
I love her. Yeah, she is the junior. If you guys aren't familiar with her, Italian junior world champ from 2023, not 2003. She would be a super senior. You know what? Also, I really like how Pan Ams are coming up this week. And I really like how the Pan Ams, they just call the competition, it's adultos. It's not seniors, it's adults. This is for adults. The other one's for kids. That is just very, factual. And I appreciate that. Anyway, she is, if you will remember her, if you've watched her floor, she is the one that is using that viral piano like Instagram music, where if anyone's trying to be like, I forgot it was all about this, and they're just like walking on a beach with their dog, or they're wandering through a meadow of wildflowers, that piano music is what her floor music is, and it's excellent. Her artistry is fantastic. It's unusual. Her flexibility is great. She has hard skills. She has Italian bars, which now we can just call them Italian bars. We don't even have to say they're Ukrainian bars anymore. She has Italian bars.
Big compliment. What, can you define Italian bars? Like, what does that mean?
You're doing stalders and all the pirouettes, and you're making it beautiful.
Got it.
It is not like, oh, these stupid pirouettes, I have to shove these in here, even though these are so uncomfortable and I feel like I'm gonna die. It looks like they are easy and your shoulders were meant to do this. Pirouettes from all the positions. Yeah. And she won gold with the team at Euros, and I'm obsessed with her. I do, when I watch her, I'm like, okay, I hope they give her time to mature into her body so that she can get the power that she will have as she ages. And that's what I'm kind of waiting for, and this might be the time when she needs some time off to grow, and then she'll have all the power, because if you don't give that time, it's just injury after injury after injury. So I'm like crossing my fingers that they've gotten that process down, because we don't hear about all the Italians having 700 back surgeries. Like, oh, we have to send
I mean, we sure hear about plenty of injuries.
They do have
Everyone's
plenty of
always
injuries.
injured all the time.
Yes, anyone in elite gymnastics is injured all the time.
Yeah.
But it's not like every single Russian gymnast that we loved had to go to Germany to have her back, a metal rod inserted in her back and after a couple years. Or maybe they do and we just don't hear about it. Yeah.
Asia D'Amato's like, not injured. Have you seen my injury history? I tried
I mean,
so hard.
the destruction of the vertebrae specifically.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Like Japan, pick USA's world team today.
Oh. Jasmine says, can you guys pick the USA World's team like Japan? So you can pick whoever you want for a 4-person team and 1 alternate, but you can't change it no matter what. I would pick Jocelyn Robertson, Claire Pease, Tiana Sumanasakra, and Simone Rose with Jayla Hang as alternate. Still can't believe they picked their team so early. # justice for my. Thanks for all you do.
Oh God. Okay.
Okay. Picking now. So just like whatever, but picking it now based on thoughts. I mean, so I would have Hesley on my team as the one thing I would change from Jasmine's team. We'll see how things go at Pan Am's, but you know, she's kind of default. I was on the Olympic team. I'm in position.
Yeah. I'm probably going to Simone Rose and Jayla Hang, I'm like so obsessed with because their artistry is so beautiful. But probably Jayla Hang because she's hitting that beam now with the full. I would also take Hesley, take Joss. Sky Blakely, I think, is going to be back.
Well, that the team, I think, I have to like change my remind myself to change my brain. It's like just for individuals. We're just talking about individual. You don't.
Oh,
need
that's
team
right.
Score. You don't need to think about what your team score is. It's Jessica's dream. But yeah, I think the team doesn't really have a bars contender necessarily, and Sky's in position to be like, oh, don't overload on beam workers, because that's a risk with the group right now. You have a lot of people who are really, really amazing on beam. But you can only have 2 people in the event final, so you kind of want to balance that. So I do think Sky Blakely is a good option because she could be like, look at my bars.
Yeah. Wouldn't this be the perfect
and look at my all around, obviously.
This would be the perfect world for Suni to come back and get a new double twisting Jaeger named after herself. But anyway, Suni, you enjoy your life. And Nola's great on bars, but I don't think she has the difficulty that Sky will have when she's back. But yeah, I mean, so I'm thinking I would take of the vaulters. Yeah, Joss or Jade. If Jade comes back, it's between those two. Sky also is good vaulter. Yeah. Hesley, you guys, I can't pick right now.
But yeah, I think that it's impossible to pick based on what we've seen so far. We'll have a little bit more information after Pan Am's, but this is very much a year, and it's very typical for the year after the Olympics, where we don't know anything until nationals.
Yeah.
And then people are still working through figuring out, am I doing it? Am I not? How's training going? Am I hurt? Am I more interested in just like being at college? So I think we're still working through that, but yeah, we won't know anything. And then we'll have Classic, and then we'll make huge proclamations and have big opinions about Classic, and then immediately forget about them once nationals happens because it erases Classic.
Yep, exactly.
The normal process.
Yep. I wanted to remind everybody that you can. So I talked to him behind the scenes about how I was going to have a call with Eurovision Sport, and our call was really interesting. And I want to remind everyone that you can watch Eurovision Sport in the U.S. for free. Yes. And they had all the rhythmic on. I think Ollie and Blythe were doing commentary. 11 hours of commentary, and you can watch. They have team. All the stuff. I actually watched some of it because I was like, wait, I can watch Eurovision Sport for free in the US. I don't have to do a VPN. I don't have to do all the things that we normally have to do to get access to Eurovision Sport, just like you can watch Euros too. So I just want to remind everybody of that. It's so great that we have this access. And they're also doing stuff that I like they had a whole montage of the bird on the floor. This is the gymnastics content we have been waiting for. Like all the little things that happen that make it, relatable and funny. And that is what we want to see. So I enjoyed a lot of their highlights from Euros. I talked to them about that on the call too, that I was like, this is my favorite thing, more of that. And so I just want to let you guys know that you can watch that. So we will see you guys on Friday for behind the scenes, which you can either watch live or you can add it to your favorite podcast player if you can't join us live. And it's at noon Pacific on Fridays or 7 GMT. So the weekend is coming, cocktail or mocktail in the Englands and Europe. The Englands and Europe. Well, GMT's in England, so that's why I'm saying that. Don't write letters. Okay, so take off on gay, split on rights. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you guys on Behind the Scenes. We didn't get to one behind the scenes. So can we do this letter about scoring Nadia versus Olga?
If I can go pee first.
Go pee.